All right, so here we are. We're attempting to utilize StreamYard because it's easier to highlight people's comments because some people have trouble reading the chat on playback, and as a result, they feel the need to play at multiple times speed because the idea of the chat is sort of illusory for them. They can understand the concept of a chat, but it just isn't there for them. So I think we've got Steward nearing a conclusion here. MPW did not move all that much today, kind of stayed within a range. I heard volume may have been kind of low, which is kind of supported here. Yep, MPW for the win. So here we have it. Now, Steward was there was I know yesterday that there was a call in thing where you could call in from a phone and enter a code and like listen into the hearing and everything. Got adjourned till 8 a.m. today, and then basically they were at the point where all of the hospitals are going to basically be moved to interim operators for a time. And basically, Steward's going to not be running the show at any of the MPW hospitals anymore very shortly. So if you believe, as I do, that Steward is the problem at these hospitals and that the hospitals themselves are valuable and good and with a better operator could be profitable and generating rental income, etc., then this is a move in that direction. And overall, probably a good thing. The stink of Steward will probably last for a time, but I do believe that the further they go in getting Steward out and the further they go away from them in time, the better the stock price should do. Could there be a pump? Well, there is substantial short interest, as some of you very well know. Yes. Hold the line. Hold the door. Hold the door. How long do I think it'll stay in the $5 range? That's tough to say, buddy. That's tough to say. Some people think that the 17th is going to be a big day. So perhaps on the 17th, we might see some kind of a big movement. It does seem every time it goes up past $5, we end up seeing it kind of go back to this 480 range that it seems, where that seems to be like where kind of the support or the whatever. The chart readers have said that 480 is kind of like where it wants to pull to right now. But that happens when it goes below 480 as well. It seems to like go back up towards that. But same as when it goes above, it seems to just be pulling towards the 480. I don't really do much technical analysis, so I would have a hard time knowing like what the next support resistance kind of thing is. I don't really draw lines on charts. It's never really been my my bag, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I'm hopeful, though. I am hopeful that we will get some resolution sooner rather than later. Now, interestingly enough, back in the day, maybe it was the last earnings, maybe it was the one before, they had actually said something to the effect of they expect Steward properties to mostly be under other operators by September. And if you take that to mean by the end of September, and you see what kind of progress has been made in court lately, it seems like that could be true. There are certain aspects of it that could go into October. There was some kind of a cutoff, say, that was set at October 20th, I think it was, for something. But the fact of the matter is, Steward's basically out of money. They're in no more position now to sit here and try to hold anybody's feet to the fire or make any demands or anything like that as of right this moment. So this stuff has to sort of start to draw to a conclusion, because if these hospitals start closing and it starts putting patients in jeopardy, the judge will have failed to do his job in all of this. And placating Steward or some of the other creditors isn't really going to be practical at this point in time. Beater. Yes, that's who I am. I am fiscal philosophy. And as some people say, not very smart at all. Not very smart at all. So with that, I feel pretty good, even though the price didn't move a lot today on Medical Properties Trust. Funny enough, when I woke up today, Amazon was down. So this has been something, and I know it's pretty boring to be in large cap tech or in Magnificent Seven stocks, but they were actually down this morning. And so I finished up getting my allocation where I wanted it to be. I wanted to be at 100 shares before the stock price got back to 200. I have succeeded in that. I have now gotten my 100 share target. I'm not really looking to substantially increase my Amazon stake from here. And because of the fact that ripsawed kind of back up after being down, it actually passed my MPW stock as my number one position. Not my intent. It just happened that way. So there you go. We definitely have reasons to be optimistic about Amazon. It failed to breach past 200. I think mainly people were talking about the Bezos wall, etc. But I'll maintain that when it comes to these Mag 7 stocks, that by a certain form of measurement, Amazon's actually relatively cheap. So, and this may not be technically true today as of today's stock price, but at different points in recent memory, it was cheaper than 2021's price to operating cash flow. Actually, yes, it looks like 18.3 was, well, that was 2022, sorry. 2021, it was 36. So yeah, we're still cheaper on a price to operating cash flow basis in Amazon today than in 2021 or 2022. And 2022, by the way, is when the stock hit those crazy lows below, what was it? $100, below $90. It was pretty cheap for a while there. So, okay. We're at a pretty low point in price to operating cash flow. And in terms of actual share price, we were lower than a lot of points it was at in 2021, at least the highs that it was at in 2021. So the business has improved. The valuation has improved. But if you bought in the highs of 2021, you've actually made $0. But I think we can be more certain today than we were in 2021 about how Amazon's business is going and where the future is and what we can expect and the profitability levers they can pull. Now, stock-based compensation is high, but you see that in a lot of large cap tech. There may be some possibility they can get that under control. Or it just becomes a smaller and smaller portion of the overall revenue. Sort of like what we're talking about with their CapEx. Right? They spent the CapEx to get their fulfillment and distribution network where it is. And they still spend a lot. No doubt, they still spend a lot. But a lot of the CapEx today is more based around their cloud business, which is much higher margin. And if we do come to a point where that slows down, where the need for this, 17 billion a quarter in CapEx drops considerably, that all becomes free cash flow as it decreases. And if that decreases later as the revenue continues to increase, you'll see it be kind of a virtuous circle. I am confident that Amazon has a pretty bright future. Like, I can't imagine the world that I live in without Amazon going forward. So yeah, this one's important for MPW holders. So now my understanding was this was a preliminary type settlement, but yeah, it was a global settlement, was signed by the judge. So yeah, we do have the judge signing off on the deal that they have to transfer the operations and everything. So that's good. That's good. I don't view it as particularly likely that Amazon would pay a dividend. Not in the near future, anyway. I mean, I know Meta and Google went ahead and initiated a dividend, but I think Amazon is still, they still look to me like they're all in on growth for the moment. Now, that could change in a year or two. You never know, but that's how it looks to me right now. Also, interesting today, we had my one of my favorite stocks up nearly 3%, and this is like a top 4 or 5 holding for me. I have 3,100 shares, so pretty big for me. And that's Grab. They were up a cool 10 cents per share. I couldn't tell you if there was any specific news about it. Honestly, news and press on this name always seems really sparse compared to American companies. It seems like pretty much maybe there's just not as much of an obsession with a constant stream of news and press releases when it comes to Singaporean-based companies. That might be a cultural thing where they don't feel the need to pump out constant press releases and peacock out there as much as American companies. I don't know. And I don't know, maybe people are just bullish on international today or something. I mean, Baba was up today, though China versus other international, I feel like people kind of put that in a separate category a little bit, It seems like people don't really put Chinese companies in the same bucket as they put other international opportunities. They kind of punish China more so. But that was up today. And so maybe it makes sense that China was up less. Baba was up less than Grab, but both were up. So I don't know. Or it could just be that because Grab has a smaller market cap, maybe it's just a little more feeling a little more volatile. But then again, it's actually got a pretty low volatility for a tech company. Who knows? Now, when it comes to MAG7 stocks, I think on the whole, there is some overvaluation there. And I personally believe a lot of it comes from Apple. Arguably, especially for the level of growth you can expect to get, this is expensive. Okay. And when you look back at how their market cap has grown over the last few years, almost all of the growth in their market cap has actually, or a good portion of it anyway, has come from multiple expansion instead of actual growth of the business. Yes, EPS goes up, and the buybacks drive that at least partially. But as far as like actually growing their overall net income or free cash flow, they're not really doing that at a super impressive clip, to be honest. I mean, if you think about it, Buffett sold a bunch for a reason. If he thought it was still a steal today, I don't think he would have. Even if like he thinks the taxes are better now than they will be in a couple years or whatever. I think that's just something he says to not be critical of the investment, because obviously he still does have some Apple. They're not going to completely sell out all at once. Nvidia up 8% today for some reason. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting thing about Oracle's founder, his son is going to be taking over Paramount in the Skydance merger. So that's interesting. Since Oracle is apparently in one of these articles about NVIDIA. Yeah, I don't understand NVIDIA being up 8% today, but it is what it is. Let's see how Tesla's doing. Oh, Tesla even up today, almost 1%. I bet Khmer must have been relieved about that. Oh, too bad MicroStrategy was not up though, because he just borrowed another like 6 figures to throw into this, into the Yield Max fund around it. So yeah, I mean, we'll see we'll see how that pans out. The other one of the other big movers today in my personal portfolio was High Tide. It's one of my major holdings. Today's move was, I guess, not huge, but overall, the last few days, it's been kind of inching upwards. This could be an earnings run up, since I think they report on the 16th. We're going to be having a roundtable, by the way, on High Tide on the Cash Flow Kings channel, which is, as of course, always linked in my description. That's always a very informative conversation. We'll probably have Blake Downer on again. He's invested very heavily in this stock. We'll see if we can get some of the other people from X/Twitter on, who are also pretty heavily invested in this. There's a decent little investing community around this stock. It's Canadian cannabis, for anybody that doesn't know. And basically their market share in Canada right now is around 11% on the retail side. They don't grow. They're just a retailer. But they're using a discount model, not unlike Costco, where they have like a club. And memberships in that club keep growing. And it gives them sort of a solid network of people that they can market to anytime they have some kind of a special going on or anything like that. Gets people in the stores. And they have an elite program that's paid. It's a paid subscription thing. And that's been growing as well. Plus, of course, their same-store sales seem to get stronger and stronger. The competition seems to be floundering, and they seem to be capturing more and more market share. Their aim is to go from 11% market share in Canada to 20%. There are plans tentatively to expand into Germany, as some regulations there have shifted such that they should be allowed to set up shop. And then, of course, you have the big mystery of when or if the US will ever move in the legalization direction. There was recently kind of a blow on that, in that descheduling the hearing for it got pushed back later and everything. I don't know what the result will be there, but this business doesn't need the US market open to it in order to succeed. That's the thing. They're already succeeding. There's room for them to continue to grow, almost double their market share in Canada. They already produce ample free cash flow. They sell at a relatively modest 8 times free cash flow, with, again, still almost 2x growth just in Canada, plus a planned expansion into Germany. So it's sitting pretty. It's a good business. They have a CEO with a track record of hitting his operational targets, as Blake likes to remind everybody when he talks about the stock. I've listened to every earnings call since I bought in earlier this year, and all in all, I like what I hear. They're good at addressing analyst questions in a straightforward and thorough way. They don't try to sidestep or anything like that, and the answers come across as confident and competent at the same time. So seems like it's good all around. We will see, of course. I mean, in the 52-week range, it has been as low as $1.14. Now, that would have been a gift getting it then. But yeah, I like it where it's at now. I'm up slightly. I think my dollar cost average is in the low to like 210 or something like that. So maybe 215. I'm up a little bit on the position. And I'm relatively happy to be here. And I do look forward to what happens on the next earnings. Should be eventful. Now, let me see. I haven't checked chat in a minute, so. All right, cool. Time for comments. Zcole. NVIDIA ended strong, new all-time high, loading before recession. Okay. Until the CCP goes away, it'll be hard to invest in China. Yeah. I mean, the fact is, when Alibaba was $300 a share, the CCP was still there. So I don't actually believe that that bear case that revolves around the CCP. I don't doesn't pass a sniff test for me. Do I think MPW will ever pay a 50% yield so we can have high dividends and some NAV erosion? NAV erosion is awesome. Yeah, I don't think MPW will ever pay a 50% yield, but I do think once the Steward bankruptcy has concluded, they will probably, with whatever the new FFO level is, and depending on what their debt loading looks like, I think we could start to see them inch the dividend back up and right size it again to the new FFO level. And I think that could happen maybe sooner than we think. Of course, the covenant they have in place says September 2025 to have the 8-cent cap. But if Steward it's not even necessarily Steward specifically. It's how many of MPW's assets are tied up in a bankruptcy. And once that percentage is below a certain threshold, they can do what they want with the dividend again, basically. I love how Khmer thinks owning the Yield Max fund is equivalent to owning shares in the underlying. It's like, it's similar in the sense that like the synthetic kind of matches the price movements. When you own, obviously, if you own options, directionally, the options gain or lose value with the underlying. But the problem is that they also, the bought options, because they have purchased options that unfortunately not only experience directional movement, but also theta decay. But they sell options as well on those options, which cap upside. Now, where they can make money is the difference in the rate of theta decay between the bought options and the sold options. if you're familiar with the concept of a poor man's covered call, it's the same idea. But the big downside is that during any temporary price downturn, if they sell any calls, even out like slightly out of the money during like a dip in price, and then the price rockets back up, which in a lot of these names that they're in, there's a lot of volatility at play. What happens is if after a downturn in price, the stock price rockets back up, you cap that upside pretty badly. So you'll lose as much when it craters, but not gain as much back when it goes back up. And all you get is your consolation prize is the options premium you collected in the meanwhile. And that's why the NAV tends to erode. You think we're going back to a pre-World War II model of global trade? I don't know specifically what I said that was in reference to. Oh, you mean Alibaba's share price being over 300? Yeah. I'm not going to try to predict the direction global trade is going. That's a little outside my area. I'm not gonna BS you guys and pretend that I can that I can call that one with any type of authority. Stabulo coming in clutch with the 2x speed. I appreciate that. Yeah, I ended up realizing you meant it was in reference to Baba 300. So, yeah. Granted, yeah, it was a slightly different time, but I don't think the idea that, oh, it's the CCP or, oh, it's the ownership structure, those things were the same then. So those are not probably the thing that's keeping the share price down. The share price is down and people will use whatever reason they have to try to justify it in their own minds of why it's down or why they shouldn't consider buying it. But to think that you came up with those ideas, which, by the way, they're not new ideas. I think there were people probably avoiding and criticizing it for those ideas back then. But to think that, like, say, Michael Burry hasn't considered that yet, he's loaded up on millions and millions of dollars of the stock. I don't know. That, like, there is this basic sniff test that just for some reason does not pass for me. So, yeah. I might be dumb and get burned. So it might be that they don't. Well, do they not care? They don't care about that over, for example, glorifying or self-aggrandizing themselves or their party. That's for sure. So the way I view the CCP is the government has a lot of control over the private sector. And it's kind of the inverse of how we do things here, where the private sector actually has a lot of control over our government. It's like, it's sort of like two sides of the same coin. But I think in both cases, like the CCP, they're very, in addition to, caring about the party, they also care heavily about Chinese nationalism and having their publicly traded businesses be viewed as the most, robust and profitable, and Chinese tech being comparable or competitive to American tech. I think, their perspective on that would be that would be viewed as a good thing. Like, look at communism can work. It can lead to prosperity that's, the same as capitalism. Look how successful our stocks are. I do think on some level they probably want that. Otherwise, why would they even allow this current structure to even continue to exist, because as some people are saying, it's technically against the rules. There's some perceived advantage that they see, and I don't think that whatever that is has gone away. And I do think if you're an advanced country and you want investment in your economy and growth, you generally don't make your country a pariah in the eyes of capital investors. So if they were to do something that completely rug pulled all Western investors in Baba, for example, or JD or any of the other big firms, all that would do is basically make all Chinese investments confirmed be completely toxic for like a generation. And agree or disagree with how China does things in general, they're not necessarily fans of intentionally shooting themselves in the foot. Have they done so accidentally in the past, like the one-child policy? Definitely. But it doesn't take a strategic genius to see how they would be shooting themselves in the foot really bad by doing what we're talking about right now. Because back during the one-child policy, everyone in the world was in hysterics about overpopulation being a real big issue. Nowadays, everybody's worried about population collapse. It's funny how that changes over the course of 20 or 30 years. They only care about the party. I mean, mainly. It's probably party and country are probably very close, 1 and 2. At least nominally. I think the people at the top of the party probably care about themselves more than anything. Sort of same with American politicians, right? But if after themselves, yeah, party, country, in either order, depending on who you're talking about, and then the people and so on and so forth. Yeah, that would be the order I would think those priorities go in. So, yeah. Now, the big question though is, I mean, if Baba is something like the Chinese Amazon, would I potentially be better off at some point just getting rid of it and putting it into American Amazon, the OG, the real thing? Yeah, I mean, maybe. Though I think objectively, even with the lower growth because of the problems in the Chinese economy right now, Baba is definitely not raking in the growth hand over fist, that's for sure. I think the Chinese economy starts to turn around. This will probably reaccelerate to an extent. It could end up being the missed opportunity that ends up looking obvious to people later once you get to a certain point. Now, granted, would I have been better off not sitting in it for a certain amount of time? Is there an opportunity cost for the time I'm spending in Baba? Even if it does end up going up to like 120 or 150 later. I mean, how long does it take to get there? And if I put it in something else during that time, would I have gotten a better return? That's a legitimate concern that I have with the Baba investment right now. So for the moment, I'm being patient, collecting the little dividend that they pay out, which they recently paid actually like a special dividend as well. And similar to PayPal, it has an overall high shareholder yield because of buybacks. And people, will complain and say the buybacks aren't real and stuff. All kinds of fun stuff. Speaking of PayPal, they're back under $70, or at least, they were last I checked. But they do seem to be kind of maintaining this 69, nice level, pretty well. Shareholder yield 5.45%. I mean, that's such a ridiculous amount of buybacks. By the way, and I was saying this on Discord. People, yeah, he only cares about, yeah, anybody that challenges him goes to the gulag. Yeah, I mean, the same would happen in Russia with Putin, and there's a few other places. In North Korea with the Kim regime, they just take you out back and shoot you. You better off buying Amazon. The Chinese economy isn't turning around, never actually recovered, continuing to have quantitative easing. I don't know. Not 100% sure that I buy that their economy is, quote, never turning around or never recovered from the 08 crash. I mean, maybe there's maybe there is some, there's probably some kind of kernel of truth there. But I want to focus on PayPal for just a second, because I made this point on Discord recently. And that was, all right, you look at the, all right, what is something people say about PayPal? It's dying, it's stagnant, it's dead. They're getting killed by Apple. Apple Pay, have you heard of Apple Pay? Okay. So, yeah, revenue growth has slowed down a little bit. It's still in the high single digits, though. I mean, it's still got that nice up and to the right movement, right? Oh, they're getting killed. They're getting killed. Okay. Now, granted, yeah, their margins are a little lower than they were a few years ago, but part of that is the growth of Braintree, which has has lower margins to begin with, and all that. But I mean, PE's in the mid-teens, price-free cash flows barely 10, price to operating cash flows below 10. Okay, and still that growth, that top line growth, is there, and their margins did tick up this last quarter. Alex Chris seems to be doing a pretty good job in accomplishing the things he set out to do. Now, compare it to Apple, which is apparently killing them, right? It's apparently killing them. Does this look like the trajectory? I mean, okay. Apparently Apple Pay is going to kill them. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's like twice as expensive with less than half the growth. Huh. But it's better, according to people who love Apple, because Apple. So, Shan, it is actually watchable on replay. I checked the last one, and like it is watchable on. I mean, I watched it on my computer, on my monitor, and Google Chrome, and the chat showed up at the right hand side. So it does show up. It may be that it doesn't show up very well. Maybe like on mobile or something. Maybe that's the case. I personally have never enjoyed watching videos on my phone. So I don't really, I realize it's probably more common than I think for people to just watch on their phones, but I've never really enjoyed watching content on my phone. So that's not generally how I consider what the playback will be like when I'm doing it. I generally view it from my own perspective, which I'm watching it on either a computer on Google Chrome, or I'm watching it on like my smart TV or whatever. That's how I'm watching any video. The only thing I'll consume sometimes on my phone is like Instagram Reels or something like that. Yeah, it probably is. And the problem is with StreamYard, with the free version especially, There's a lot of limitations to like how much streaming I can actually do in a given period of time, uh, how much storage we're allowed. Their watermark has to appear, and the paid version is actually it's pretty expensive compared to liking the free version of OBS better than the free version of StreamYard. But you watch videos. Good old Brain Dead watches videos with the eyelids closed. And then he falls asleep. He falls asleep to my silky smooth voice. Always. I'm like a lullaby. I'm your ultimate ASMR. So I did see the Will Ferrell ad. I thought it was pretty hilarious. Yeah, Alex Chris has definitely started to push things in the right direction. So far, Alex Chris seems like a CEO who is willing to make things happen. And I'm not even saying like the previous leadership was necessarily bad, but I think that they were aggressively average, I think, in terms of stewardship. And if they stayed in charge, PayPal was going to just be more of the same. And Alex Chris says, I see a lot. This is me narrating what I think he's thinking. I see a lot of potential here. There are avenues of growth that have not been pursued and explored properly. There's efficiency that has not been realized. And the status quo hasn't been as effective as what it could be. They have no market share in that space and they can grow easily. Yeah. The pay with your phone on the point of sale thing. Yeah, I don't even use that kind of stuff. Like I just use card. Like it took me years to even like start using the tap feature on my chip cards and stuff. I don't know. I'm slow to adjust to things that change, I guess. Like if I do things one way and I'm used to it and I don't dislike it, I'm usually hesitant to just adopt the new way of doing things. Some people, they always want to try the new widget or whatever. I guess, there's some people that they always need to buy the newest model of smartphone from whatever, and there are those that are like, I could skip a model, I'm the can skip a model type. Although I did get like the highest end Samsung Galaxy this last time a few months ago. It's the first time I ever got the highest end smartphone that was available. And it was kind of nice, to be honest. But yeah, you're right. People do sleep on PayPal and the new CEO. Like I think some people are starting to come around. Let me see here. I was gonna maybe play the PayPal ad, but the music in it will probably get me copyrighted, so I'm not gonna play the ad. I'd love to, but copyright tends to be stingy, so there you go. But honestly, guys, I mean, I'm at the 45-minute mark here. I gave like a little brief overview of the stocks I wanted to talk about today. So unless you guys have anything else, like I'm pretty comfortable to just call it a day in a few minutes here. I would like to remind you all that I'm going to be on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Cashflow Kings Live. So if you aren't already checking that out, I definitely encourage it. Also, I am trying to get to 500 followers on the X platform, and the link to my profile is in the description. My Discord is also linked in the description. Beater Stocks and Brain Dead and Stabulo, a lot of the people that you saw in the chat today, Cabo, are all in there. So you may want to consider giving the Discord a try. I think we're up to 200 people in the Discord now. So we have a pretty active group there. All like to talk stocks. Not just the ones that I'm in. There are people who go in different directions, and that's cool. Always good to get different ideas. Now, another thing, if you do wish to support the channel, memberships, of course, are always on the table. But if you would like to maybe consider trying out a new brokerage, I have a Moomoo link, which does give you access to a lot of their interesting features, such as a 6.8% margin rate, 8.1% APY, 15 free stocks if you deposit $1,000, which, heck, I think most of us have $1,000 to play around with. So it's worth exploring. The trading indicators are numerous. I believe it's at least 100 that they have on there. I'm not too much of a technical analysis person, but if I was, I'd be BUSSIN with my charts and graphs on there. I have a buddy that he's really into trading like futures and stuff like that, and I had him look at it to get his opinion, and he was pretty impressed. He said it was kind of like a combination of TradingView and Thinkorswim. It was the beta version of the desktop app I had him look at. I didn't show him the mobile, so maybe somebody let me know what you think of the mobile. That's about all the self-promotion I have. So again, unless anybody has anything else, I'm going to probably just call it and say, hope the rest of the week's interesting. Definitely looking forward to seeing what stonks do tomorrow. Stabulo caught up live using 2x speed. Yeah, that 2x speed is pretty great. Hopefully get to live. You killed it, Stabulo. Your timing was bad. Your timing was as bad as mine. You have some of the worst timing ever at watching YouTube lives. So with that, take it easy, everyone, and hope you have a good day. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Hopefully some of you will be in the Discord.